In the first 3 years of our life, each of us needed to be admired and taken seriously. We needed to be accepted for the very one we are. John Bradshaw. The need to be admired and taken seriously is part of what constitutes the irreducible needs of children. And how a child is treated is part of mirroring back the worth of that child, which is the foundation for their healthy boundaries formation. I covered a good piece on boundaries in the previous video, and in this video in particular, I will focus on the way neglect shows up and how it compromises the creation of a secure inner boundary in a child. Neglect is when a parent, as the primary attachment figure, is missing or is absent. And it can mean physically, and it can also mean psychologically or emotionally not being present there. How is a parent missing or absent? While there are extreme cases of early abandonment, the more prevalent practice in the modern world, of which a majority of people are not aware, is the daycare system and placing a child as early as 6 weeks old in daycare. This has now been documented to play a huge role in the prevalence of mental health in children and adolescents and later in life. Statistics show that more than 25% of children in the USA are on some form of medication for their mental health struggles, while their parents are just busy at work because they need, understandably, to provide for their family and for their needs. However, what those children need more is the nurturing presence of their mother, and as babies, especially in the first 3 years. Author and psychoanalyst Erika Komisar has a staggering amount of latest studies on this topic, and the conclusion again and again points out the fact that the first 3 years of a child need to be at home with their mother rather than in a kindergarten or daycare looked after by strangers. Previously, I made a video that I'm going to link up here and even link it in the description, where I describe the cycle of trauma and the stage of shutdown when a child gives up on asking. So a baby gives up on asking, knowing that help is not coming. So when at daycare, they reassure you that your child is fine, and because they settle down, that settle down might be just a shutdown in the absence of the caregiver, the mom, ever returning to take care of them. So a giving up, a resignation of the child, and that is not healthy thriving for the child or for their brain. So just as a little note. But what does it mean to be around a child? Being around physically is not enough. Being present psychologically is what makes the difference. Engaging with the child. Why is it so important? Because of where they are developmentally. Children's world evolves around them, and that is necessary. So let's look at some examples. What gets in the way of a mother being present with her child? Sometimes it can be postpartum depression or just her own well-being. The mother herself or the caregiver herself being so depressed and unable to be there with the right kind of presence for the child and engaging. Sometimes people report boredom with the child, and that has emerged to also be a sign of depression in the mother. Other forms of not being present with a baby is just everyday busyness with other things or projects or concerns that can really take you out of there. Just being in the same space with a baby is not enough, or with the child. They do seek constant engagement, and dismissing them, it's just a form of neglect and not a good idea. Sometimes you might find yourself prioritizing housework, or because having a clean house is such a big deal, and often for some people, based on like their upbringing, that might take precedence because it causes anxiety in a mother. So at the expense of being with her child, that will be a priority. I've seen many mothers who were able to strike a balance actually and turn around, understanding this, bring some healing even to those parts that feel so affected by the house not being perfectly clean, and being able to say, for now, for this time in my life, this early years with my child, that will become a lesser priority, and my well-being, my child's well-being will become number one priority. Having a good time as a family is more important than having a house super clean. As with abandonment, there are cases when mothers had to go and work in a separate city or separate country and temporarily leave their child with grandparents, or even working like as a full-time, and often they say like, I gotta earn money so that I can provide for you. Parents often, like fathers as well, because fathers are just as important in the first years of a baby's life. They play a different role, but it's just as important. They bring a different energy to the relationship if it's a healthy relationship. And often mothers coming back and saying, I've lost the connection with my child, or I've lost my children, because really losing the relationship with the child is disconnect, this breach in the attachment. And that is what it does to their relationship, and then what it does to a child and their sense of safety and security and who they are in the world, and these boundaries that we talked about. So why is it important? Because of where children are developmentally, their world evolves around them, and that is a very normal and necessary thing, as we know. But that also means that a child will take things personally. The impact of not having one's parent's time creates a feeling of being worthless. The child feels that he is worth less than his parents' time, attention, and direction later in life, especially. A young child's egocentricity will always interpret things egocentrically. If mom and dad would care about me, they would be with me here. They wouldn't be elsewhere. There must be something wrong with me. That's the conclusion. Or otherwise they would want to be with me. And often children will carry that in adulthood, and you end up with false beliefs about who you are, thinking like there's something wrong with me, nobody loves me, I'm not good enough, I'm not acceptable enough, I'm not lovable. And then, that sense of worth, which eventually leads to how you set boundaries, how you relate to other people. Babies and children have irreducible needs, which means their needs don't become less when neglected. They just might shut down, as mentioned, as in the cycle I described in a previous video on early childhood trauma. Let's look at some example of emotional neglect. So ignoring a child or not engaging with them. They might make some noises or ask questions or might point out at something, comment on something, or say something, and the parent just kind of ignores them or is engaged elsewhere on the phone or with a friend or just doing other things. Dismissing, devaluing, or discounting a child's needs. Oh, he's just trying to get attention. That's not important. As with the opening quote in the beginning, the need to be admired and taken seriously. It's an important one for children. Disconnection from a child, as in the cases of depression. Minimizing a child's needs. They don't really need anything. They just want attention. Not being there for them. Busy with more important things, or not going out of your way to be there for them. Not affirming them. They did something great and you're just like, just no comment and no reaction. Not taking their side, as in protecting them. Setting up with the adults in the room, not understanding their needs. They feel like they are just out of control. What do they want? I don't get it. It's really difficult to be in tune with their needs when you're disconnected from them. Or not understanding their limitations in regulating emotions. So when angry, when upset, for example, sometimes parents will just withdraw and let them have like a fit of rage and totally ignore them. They are just like, calm down and then I'll come or I'll talk to you. And actually, that's when they need you the most to stay engaged. Because the reason they are in this state, it's just their inability to regulate that big emotion. And sometimes for them can be scary. And often they can be also scared that they will lose your connection, your affection, because they have that. And that becomes even scarier. At the same time, they cannot stop. So it's all amplified. And more than anything, they need your presence and staying engaged and reassuring them that you're there and that you got them and you are with them, and helping them regulate by you being there calm and present, help them settle down and then move into problem solving at some point. Another way is not soothing when they cry. There is this belief that is spread out there, like let them cry it out. So whether it's they are hurt by something or upset by something, there is not the effort to like soothe the baby. I see sometimes moms out with children in prams, and the child is crying, is wailing, wants something, and the mom continues just totally ignoring them, chatting with a friend, just walking along, just letting themselves cry themselves to sleep. There is the belief that they don't need anything. They are fed, they had a diaper change, and they really don't need anything. But actually what they need in that moment, they need your touch. They need you to hold them, they need you to nurture them. And your body is self-regulating for their body, like physiologically. So having them in close proximity and holding them and talking to them softly, that can really soothe them and help them calm down. And it doesn't take a long time. And often this is exactly what they are trying to get to by crying, as a way of letting communicating to their mother that they need her. And I don't mean this as a criticism to mothers. We either don't have good role models, or we haven't been mothered, if you want, or nurtured properly, and being open to like what is the best. Because I'm sure any mother wants the best for their baby. They think they do the best for them. And which leads me to the next point, that said, sometimes mothers would go to extreme and completely ignore their needs. I've heard testimonies, mothers sharing like how, later how much they regretted, they gave everything, and kids are still not happy and were like not grateful and so on. Often the exhaustion it causes will make it even more difficult for a mother to be present and attentive to a child's needs. So then it may create this loop when the mother starts to feel resentful, blame, and take this victim, kind of feel like a victim of life and of her circumstances. But then putting guilt on your children for failing to take care of your own needs, it's like, blaming everyone around because your car stopped in the middle of the road because you forgot or neglected the fact that you need to put fuel in your tank. So a mother needs to prioritize her needs. I think about at least 4 areas that need to be always a priority actually for any human being, and especially as a mother, because there is a tendency to give and care. So prioritize your sleep, prioritize your nutrition, making sure to have very healthy, properly balanced nutrition, prioritizing your movement or exercise, and your headspace, so like having this time out when I just do things for myself. And it can be a 20 minutes per day or an hour. And this would also be part of healthy boundary modeling for them. Which leads us to, what do you do now as an adult who didn't internalize healthy boundaries, unclear where to set them? How do you fix this? I will focus more on the repair and healing in the next video. Thank you so much for stopping by. Take care.